My name is Blair Brown, and I know some of you, which is awesome. And for those I've never met, hello. I am a first-generation barbershopper, which means no one else in my family enjoys this special style of music. I sing lead with a mixed quartet called Double Date, and I also am a board member at large with the Barbershop Harmony Society's International Board of Directors. But more than any of that, I am a very proud barbershopper. This last year has been so challenging for our barbershop community in so many ways. And, overnight, the thing that we love to do was halted with no timeline of when we might get to do it again. And despite this season of adversity, I've kind of watched in awe this last year as barbershoppers from all around the world have come together to support one another and connect in ways that I previously would not have thought were possible. I have witnessed firsthand so many instances of love, kindness, creativity, ingenuity amongst the members of our big global barbershop community, and experiencing that love amidst all the difficulty in our world has made me feel really proud to be part of this community. I know people who don't have something like barbershop in their life. And this last year, they've had almost no connection outside of their own bubble or their day-to-day world. And we're so lucky to be part of something that brings us all together the way barbershop does. And I'm so grateful to share that with all of you. So lucky us, right? It's a huge honor for me to be here today talking to Babs, and I want to say thank you so much for inviting me to be part of your convention. When I told my husband that I had been invited to give a keynote for the Babs convention, he said, "Oh my God, we're going to England." And I said, "No, babe, I think it's a virtual event, and I don't think they're going to be flying me to England to give a speech." And he was so sad. So I promised him that we will have to plan another trip to the UK in the future when it feels safe to do that, so we can hang out with Babs in real life and meet you all in person and sing tags together. So I look forward to that. And so does my husband, who's still very bummed that this was not a trip to England. So I'll just jump right in and tell you, the thing I want to talk to you about today is inclusion, radical inclusion. And I want to explore what can that mean within our barbershop community? Why is it so urgently important that we embrace it now? And then I want to just explore and talk about some of the steps that we might take in our barbershop communities to make inclusion more of a reality as soon as possible. I know that the term inclusion or the term radical inclusion can kind of put people off a little bit, but I just don't see it that way at all. To me, talking about inclusion is probably one of the most joyful and exciting conversations we can have. Inclusion means more. It means abundance. It means more of everything that is good. It means more people, more singers, more songs, more cultures to influence the barbershop style and bring it to life in new ways that we haven't thought of yet. And as a community of artists, which as barbershop singers, that's really what we are. We're an art community. We love inclusion. It's very exciting because it enriches all the art that we make. So if you're scared, don't be. This is a fun conversation. And I also think it would be prudent for me to preface this discussion about inclusion by saying that, of course, I am not an authority on inclusion. I'm a novice, if anything. And like most people, I'm still trying to unpack years of my own unconscious biases, and I'm constantly discovering new gaps in my understanding, things that I don't get yet. And I'm still trying to figure out what it means to be an intentionally inclusive person. So thank you for giving me the grace to talk about this when I'm still figuring it out myself. But we can't all wait until we're ready to start this journey. Let's just go, right? Sometimes I'll look back and see an old comment that I made on social media, or I'll remember a joke that I told, and I just kind of cringe a little bit because I maybe said something that was inappropriate. I was wrong. And I think we tend to feel shame and embarrassment when we look back on the ways that we have failed to understand inclusion in the past. And we can't let our shame and embarrassment stop us from having these important conversations. The only thing we can do is just keep talking to each other and continually seek out new opportunities to get it right next time, right? So my goal is not to lecture anyone about inclusion, because what do I know? But hopefully we can open up a dialogue and maybe encourage and inspire each other to start thinking about inclusion more, or like in a new way, you know? I wasn't sure at first if this topic would be appropriate for Babs, because I don't know you all that well and I don't know what's important to this community. But I went onto the Babs website to just try to get a better feel of like, what are the values of this organization? And right there on your webpage, under the tab called Our Mission and Values, it says, one of the goals for Babs in 2021 and 2022 is, quote, to become a more inclusive organization. So I thought, yeah, Babs would love to talk about inclusion because they've stated it as one of their paramount ideals right now. So that's really exciting. And I just want to celebrate that you've obviously made this a priority already. So that's really exciting. So when I chose this topic, I did a quick Google search to see like, how do people define inclusion and what's already out there, right? And I found this definition of inclusion that I loved. It's really simple, and it just says, welcome everyone, drop judgments, choose to turn towards people. That's it. I love that. And I do think that that encapsulates the spirit of what I want to talk to you about today. When we think about what does inclusion mean for barbershoppers, I think a good starting off point, at least from my frame of reference, is to talk about the Barbershop Harmony Society's strategic vision, which is called Everyone in Harmony. When BHS announced its new inclusive vision, this was 2017, and it was intentionally very multifaceted. There was a lot to it, but there was one element of Everyone in Harmony that seemed to attract almost all of the attention. And that was, of course, the inclusion of women being able to join the BHS as full members for the first time. And that one element was such a lightning rod for conversation that it seemed like all the other conversations about what inclusion could mean in barbershop kind of took a back seat. And that was sort of sad to me that we didn't get to have those conversations as much as I would have liked. It's about so much more than the inclusion of women. Here's a quote from the Barbershop Harmony Society's CEO, Marty Munson. He says about Everyone in Harmony, when Everyone in Harmony premiered in June 2017, the society committed itself to, quote, radical inclusion, our belief that every person who loves to harmonize has a place in our family. And everyone means everyone, people of every age, every background, every gender identity, every race, every sexual orientation, every political opinion or spiritual belief, ability, and disability. So there's so much more there. I don't even really remember. Did they mention women? Because I didn't even really hear that part. I heard this broad vision about our entire organization being inclusive in many ways. And you know, when I first heard about Everyone in Harmony, of course, I was excited about the women joining part because as a woman, it meant I could join and become a member. And so I was stoked. That's a cool part of it. But when I saw the vision laid out with let's be inclusive in all these ways, that's what really attracted me to the Barbershop Harmony Society. I saw this predominantly white, at the time, all male organization saying unapologetically in this huge, bold, public way, inclusion is so important to us. It's our top priority. And I thought, wow, now this is an organization I would like to get involved with. I am called to join this effort. This really appeals to me. And as I got more involved in the organization, these conversations about Everyone in Harmony always came back to women joining, women joining, women joining. And it felt like everything else took a back seat to the matter of gender. Everyone in Harmony is about women singing barbershop, but it's about men singing barbershop. It's about non-binary and trans people singing barbershop. It's about barbershoppers from every racial and ethnic background. It's about barbershoppers of different physical and mental ability, people of every age, people from every culture. Everyone in Harmony is about making a space for singers of every religious background and even those who aren't religious at all. To me, Everyone in Harmony is about seeing each person as uniquely valuable and equally deserving of being in the barbershop community. Over time, I've learned that not every BHS member was ready to embrace a radically inclusive vision. And that's been hard to understand, but I think I understand it a little better now. And what I've realized is that's okay. They don't have to, because I'm ready to embrace it and you're ready to embrace it. And between all of us, that's a pretty good start. And it's time. So now that we kind of understand a little bit more about what can it mean, let's talk about why. Why is it so important for the barbershop community to become radically inclusive? Why does it need to happen right now? And first of all, it matters and it needs to happen right now because we are already behind. In the year 2021, for an arts organization like us, like BHS, like BABS, like the barbershop community, for us to embrace an inclusive vision is not radical. It is hardly progressive. We are late to the party of inclusion. And when we look at the history of barbershop music, we know this style was rooted in African American tradition, and then it was sort of adopted or taken by white people, and they then turned around in the United States and formed a barbershop organization that then barred African American people from joining. So let's take a minute and let that really sink in, the injustice of that chain of events. We're late to the party of inclusion. Knowing as we do about our past, about our history, we ought to be fervent in our commitment to diversity in everything we do. Our culture, our organization, it should be a no-brainer that the barbershop community would be leaders in the area of diversity and inclusion within the larger choral music ecosystem. We shouldn't be the last people to get on board. As barbershoppers, we tell stories through song about the human experience, and we're singing about these universal emotions: love, loss, passion, and pain. And the more we can understand about people from all different walks of life, the more effectively we can share those emotions as performers, the more clearly we can communicate the universal messages in the music that we sing to the broadest audience possible. Another reason that we need to be focused on inclusion now, right now, is that diverse organizations have been shown over and over to be more financially successful than their more homogenous counterparts. So a 2018 research study from the McKinsey Global Institute showed that greater diversity within organizations result in greater profitability and value creation. So we might not be super focused on profit, but we're definitely in the business of value creation. And the same holds true at the executive level. The same study found a statistically significant correlation between diverse leadership and better financial performance. So when we're talking about the sustainability of this art form for generations to come, well, we can't keep sharing barbershop if our organizations cease to exist. And we know through data that diverse organizations are more sustainable. So why would we not? It would be crazy not to embrace that vision. And I want to quickly address something that I've heard a lot in the wake of the rollout of Everyone in Harmony. I've heard some version of this sentiment, this statement. Well, my chorus, my chapter, we didn't need Everyone in Harmony because we were already inclusive. Anyone could have walked into our rehearsal and stood up on the risers next to me and I would have welcomed him. And I appreciate the sentiment behind that. And I think I've thought things like that myself. I am inclusive. Anyone can be around me. I don't mind. And let's really think about that though, because if just having an attitude that anyone who happens to show up in our barbershop spaces is allowed to stay, if that level of commitment to inclusion were enough, then when we looked around right now, we wouldn't still see an almost entirely homogenous community of barbershop singers, right? If that level of passive inclusion were working, it would have worked and we would now be like a very diverse organization. And the fact that we can look around and see almost everybody looking alike means that that's not going to be enough anymore. We've reached a point in time now where if we really do value inclusion, if we mean what we say when we say that, we're going to have to do more than passively welcome or merely be tolerant of people's presence in our spaces. We're going to now need to go out of our way to make people feel welcome and included. We need to go make connections with new communities in the areas that we live and sing. We're going to need to do outreach. We're going to need to become barbershop evangelists, kind of sharing the good news of barbershop, bringing it to people where they are, instead of waiting for them to come to us and hoping they'll feel welcome enough to stick around. And the most important reason why we should embrace inclusion right now is because it's awesome. It's life-changing to sing and form friendships and learn with and alongside people who are different than us. It's what changes our lives and makes us all better people. To go through the experience of creating art with people whose life experience is so different from our own. I want that for myself as an artist, as a performer. I want to have those experiences, and I hope that you do too. And I value that so highly in my own evolution as a person. And I think our whole organization will benefit from us making art with people whose lives look nothing like ours. Really cool things will happen. Try to imagine how cool it would be to attend an international barbershop event, a convention, and it was truly international. Like, what if you walked in and there were quartets and choruses from 50 different countries, more than 50 countries, and each ensemble adding their own style and contribution to the barbershop art form, to the barbershop sound? How exciting would that be? I would love to see that. And so if we don't start now, we just delay and delay and delay the day that that becomes a reality for us. And I don't want to wait. I don't want to wait. I want to see that reality in my lifetime and soon, you know? So let's talk a little bit about how. How do we do this? It sounds nice. I want more people around. How are we going to make it happen? First, there is no limit to the number of creative ideas that we can come up with to try to become a more inclusive community. We are only limited by the boundaries of our own imaginations. And so the list I'm about to go through is certainly not exhaustive. It's just a starting point. The first thing that I think will help us become more inclusive is to try to be the kind of person who is genuinely curious about other people. It takes a big heart and a lot of intention to really want to know about someone. And it's time for all of us to become the sort of person that really wants to know about someone else. I want to know the good, the bad, and the ugly about you that makes you who you are and that allows us to sing and perform together. We need to expand and broaden the definition of what we think a barbershopper looks like and create space for all different kinds of people to come into the barbershop ecosystem and know that they are totally accepted exactly as they currently are. We also need to talk to one another with the intent to actually understand, not to respond, but to really hear and understand what each other are saying. I think each one of us has a PhD in our own lived experience. You know, I don't really have a PhD, but I think you know what I mean. I'm an expert in my life experience, but when it comes to yours, I really have no idea what I'm talking about. I don't know anything unless I ask and really want to know the answers, right? I saw something really cool recently on social media in one of these kind of casual barbershop chat groups. Sandy Wright, who some of you may know. She's a 2-time Sweet Adeline's Queen of Harmony with tetrachords and ambiance. And she also is a judge in every barbershop organization, including the Barbershop Harmony Society. She's a performance judge. And so they deal a lot with the visual, facial expression, that aspect of communicating the story of a song. And so Sandy wrote a prompt on one of these barbershop pages. I just worked with a singer who's on the autism spectrum, and I found that a lot of the language I was using to talk about emotion did not resonate with that person, went right over their head. And I wonder if other barbershoppers could kind of share with me their experience getting coached about performance and emotion and facial expression. And within, I don't know, like 24 hours, there were over 175 responses to her prompt. And it was as if autistic and non-neurotypical barbershoppers, people on the spectrum, had been waiting their entire lives for someone to just ask, what's it like for you? How could we coach better so that it would be more effective in the way that you learn and understand? And, you know, people said things like, it's very hard for me when a barbershop coach tells me to sing from the heart. I don't know what that means because that's not the way that I think about emotion. And I'm currently training to become a BHS judge. I never have thought of this. I never have taken the time to think about this aspect of how the way we talk about performing resonates with non-neurotypical singers. So we really don't know until we ask, and there's just no reason not to. I'm excited for us to start asking each other, what's it like to be you in this community, and really listen to the answers. Another thing I think we should do is start being really intentional about collaborating with other people in our community outside of the barbershop ecosystem. There are choruses, acting troupes, musical ensembles, and symphonies all over the world who would love to put on a group show with a barbershop chapter when we're all able to sing and perform together again. And it's through intentionally making those connections in our community with new groups of people that we start to show the kind of groups that we are. We start to show the fun and joy that comes with singing barbershop and make connections with other musicians. And rather than leaving the door open at rehearsal and hoping somebody new walks in, it's time now to go collaborate with other musicians in our area so that they know they're welcome. And we get a chance to say to their face, please come to our rehearsal if you're interested in this at all. We would just love to have you. Another way I think we can be more inclusive is to learn something really powerful from this last year, almost a year and a half now, of this pandemic experience of being in lockdown. Something we saw this year was musical ensembles from all over the world finding ways to stay connected virtually when they couldn't be together physically. And even as the world's kind of opening back up again, and it might be safe soon to start singing again with your chorus, with your ensemble, we can still use all of this technology that helped us get through this lockdown period to make our rehearsal more accessible to people going forward forever. I've talked to several people in choruses who started doing all their rehearsals on Zoom, and now they're all vaccinated and they're getting ready to sing in person again. And they're going to continue doing all their rehearsals on Zoom for the people who aren't physically able to come to rehearsal, financially able to come to rehearsal. They have members that now live in all different places and are geographically unable to come to rehearsal, but still want to participate, learn the music, and come perform at the concert later. So we can take all the lessons we learned from this COVID lockdown musical community and just keep it going to stay even more connected, even as in-person rehearsals and performances start to resume. Another key change I think we should make to become more inclusive is to start being very intentional about including diverse voices in every stage of our planning processes. So with the leadership in our chorus, for example, we need diverse voices in everything between choosing repertoire, planning the chorus's show, selecting attire for a performance or a competition. There should be diverse voices in all of these conversations. And when we do that, we come up with better ideas. We're less likely to miss something that might be problematic. And we get closer to creating a culture that's going to just appeal to more people and then have that effect of attracting a wider variety of singers to join our ensembles. And an extension of that means that people in leadership roles need to be all in. Change cannot happen in the barbershop world without strong leaders who are unapologetically committed to inclusion. As leaders, each of us should be able to state very easily our own personal why. Why do I think inclusion matters? It should be something that you can rattle off at the drop of a hat because it's so personal and intrinsic to who you are now. It's a mission for you, right? So I have my own personal why. And when things start to get difficult, it's very easy for me to go back to, I can see that convention with people from every country in the world singing together, and I can feel what that would be like. And that is a North Star that keeps me going when the work of inclusion is challenging. In addition to including diverse voices in our decision-making process, we need to include young people in every aspect of what we do. I know this sounds obvious, but young people are the future of barbershop. They're the future of everything. And they're the future of BHS, and they're the future of Babs. And without them, we will not have a legacy to continue on after we're gone. Without creating spaces that appeal to young people, there won't be barbershop for them to enjoy later the way that we get to enjoy it now. So let's seek out the young people in our lives, the kind of people that we would want to have in our chorus. And again, just ask them, what do you want? What are you looking for? When you have free time and you're someone who loves music, what's the kind of space that you want to go give up a night of the week to be in? What do you crave? What do you want? And then start actually making changes to our organizations to reflect the desires of the young barbershoppers that we hope to include. Another thing to consider is financial inclusion. Not everyone who loves barbershop can afford to participate at the level that has become the norm. You may be paying dues to your chorus, to a chapter, to a district, an association, or even to the BHS. You are paying to travel for contests. You are paying for coaching, etc. And that's fine, but there are so many people that could add value to our organizations who might not be in a position to do that. So it's time for us to start thinking about how can we offer services to people that they can afford or that give them a value that feels reasonable to them. And that might be assisting them in funding their participation. And many choruses do this already through, sometimes it's called an angel fund, and other members of the chorus donate to help people participate for whom it's financially burdensome, right? But it's more than that. What if your chorus, instead of offering, you join, you're with us all year, you're coming to all our events, what if we all started to offer seasons? Like we have a contest season and a performance season, and you can join us for both or just one. Or maybe we offer events like a talent show, and it's a one-off, and you come and you have a good time and you interact with us, and we don't expect you to join and pay hundreds of dollars or pounds in dues. Or maybe your chorus or your chapter wants to offer like a beer choir event where people come for one night, pay $10, sing a bunch of barbershop with you, have a great time, and go home. And it's not that level of financial commitment that would bar people from really participating. Another big thing I think we could change is to take some of the burden off of people to tell us what they need. And what I mean by that is, when someone comes, let's say, for example, to visit your chorus's rehearsal, when they walk in the door, you don't know anything about their needs. They may be visually impaired. They may have an issue that prevents them from standing for the full length of a rehearsal. They may be able to read music and they would really prefer to see sheet music. They may not be able to read music and they would really prefer to stand next to a strong singer. They may have mental health issues that cause them to behave in a way that might make them or you feel uncomfortable. There's unlimited possibilities of what a person's need could be. But instead of waiting for people to approach us, to approach leadership in our barbershop organizations and say, hey, I actually kind of need help in this area, what if every time a new person entered our ecosystem, we made the effort to say, is there anything else you need? Is there anything else I can do to make you more comfortable here today? And it could be, yeah, my vision's not great. It would really help me to stand closer to the director. And by offering the invitation for someone to volunteer that to you, you don't have to wait until they bring it up, right? That's one of the ways that we can be more inclusive on purpose. And even if you offer that to a new singer and the answer is no, I don't have any special considerations I need accounted for, I'm good, you still have sent a very strong message that down the road, if they have an issue with something about the chorus or the way it's being run, they know that they can go to you or go to leadership because you want to hear what's going on with them. You want to know how you can help. And so by intentionally asking people, is there anything else we can do to help you? You're creating a culture in your choral community that says, we really care about you being comfortable here. And that will benefit so many more things than just whether they stay that one night, whether they have a good time that one night. Last but not least, I think part of radical inclusion means inclusion of ourselves. It means including, loving, and embracing every part of who we are as well, and being willing to bring all of ourselves into the barbershop community and kind of telling the truth. You know, as a barbershopper, I want to see you on your best day. I want to see you on your worst day. I want to see you when you just had a great day at work. I want to see you when it feels like your life is falling apart. And I think part of inclusion means, I think there's been a little bit of a connotation in the barbershop community that it's happy-go-lucky, it's cheerful all the time, it's chipper, it's super positive. And if you don't fit that mold or you're not feeling that way right now, it might feel like I probably shouldn't go be around all these people because I'm struggling and they're all happy. And that's not true. First of all, lots of people are struggling and that we don't realize. But second of all, I want you to come on your hard day. I want to see you during the struggle. And so I do think part of inclusion means making sure people know that we want all of them. We want every part of who you are. And there's room for all of that in our barbershop community. We love you. There's so much more that I haven't listed, and I could go on forever, but I'm sure you hope that I won't, and I won't. But I hope that some of these ideas maybe lit a spark or could be a jumping off point for an ongoing conversation that we all need to continue having about inclusion. More than anything that we're gonna do or plan, inclusion is a feeling. It's a way that we make people feel when they enter our space. And, you know, it's the difference between, have you ever been invited to tag along with a friend to an event? You know, like maybe it was their party and you don't really know anyone, but they say, no, you're invited, you should come. And so you tag along and you go, and the people hosting the event are nice and polite, but you kind of know that they're just tolerating you being there because you weren't really part of the plan, and they're kind of going on as if you hadn't showed up because you weren't really invited in the first place. Compare that feeling with your best friend is having a dinner party and you're invited, and she's making the entree and you're bringing appetizers, and you're gonna play your favorite game, and you know that your presence is really wanted at that event. That's how we want new members of the barbershop community to feel. I'm not tolerating that you're here. I am thrilled that you are here. And this dinner party would be so much less fun if you had not decided to come tonight. And that's how I want people in the barbershop community to feel. And it's up to us to make it happen. We have to do it. You know, I said earlier that I had been kind of Googling inclusion, trying to get inspiration of sort of what I wanted to talk about. And I saw this quote pop up, and I couldn't see who made the quote, but I loved it. So I'll read it to you. This was the quote. Radical inclusion means thinking outside of our habits. It means seeing the abundance in what we can do instead of the limitations of what we can't or won't do. It's easy to think that things that are familiar form the boundary of what is possible. And I love that. It's easy to think that what's familiar forms the boundaries of what's possible, but it doesn't. And so I loved the quote so much and I wanted to use it for my speech. So I clicked on the link and it took me to a website. And do you know who said this quote? Marty Munson, the CEO of the Barbershop Harmony Society. And it was actually a link to the BHS website and a page about radical inclusion. And it gave me the chills that in my search to write about this topic, it brought me right back to the community that I'm already in. And I felt this validation of, yeah, this is the right place and this is the right time. It's not a mistake that you are here. It's not a mistake that I'm here. It's not a mistake that we're members in 2021, despite everything that's happened. And it's up to us to create the kind of future that we want to be in, that we want our children to be in. If we keep talking to one another and telling each other the truth and listening with the intention to understand, we cannot fail. And in another 20 years, I can't wait to see the results of the efforts that we're going to make right now. And if you don't have yet that personal why is inclusion important to me, then this is your invitation. I challenge you to sit down and write it out and think, why do I need this in my life? And let that be a North Star for you when it gets confusing or challenging. I want to thank you so much for your time and attention. I hope that anything I said today resonated with anyone at all. I hope it did. If you want to speak to me more about this, I can get my email address to you. Please reach out to me. I want to talk to you. I want to know you. I'm so excited for our future, and I do think that the possibilities are limitless. I wish you all the best, and I hope you know that the barbershop community is absolutely better because you are in it. Thank you so much. Thank you for listening, and I hope to see you soon.